So a fabulous grid of Ford GT40s all coming into position. We've got a green flag at the back which says they're all in place. Here comes the starting flag to release a wonderfully expensive grid and a superb start from Philip Walker on pole position with the silver car number 37, but an even better start from Andy Wallace on the outside of the front row, and 37 slips back a bit, and the man who's got completely swallowed up in that start is Adrian Newey. The white car with the broad red stripe is right back in the traffic, but it's Andy Wallace who has the lead from well, coming through. Now, who has just taken the lead? That looks like David Carr. It's actually Steve Soper in that car. Steve Soper has come through from the outside of the second row, and Andy Wallace trying to hold on. Car number 2 is David Hart, the Dutchman, as they all go pouring through Lavant Corner, and Philip Walker trying to make up time after his bad start. That's the silver car with the yellow stripes, but Adrian Newey is way down in the traffic. He was very slow away, and he will be very frustrated about that as they all go storming down the Lavant Straight. And a spin, that's number 15, which has spun miraculously. Everybody seems to have missed him. That was Joachim Volk who spun. He's come to a halt, but he's kept the engine running. Joachim Volk gets going again across the grass, and mercifully nobody hit him in this tight, bunched traffic on the very first lap. But it is indeed Steve Soper who has the lead in number 11. David Hart is in second place in number 2. Then it's Andy Wallace in third place. Philip Walker, recovering from his bad start from pole position, is in fourth place. And Adrian Newey, there he is in number 5, starting to get into his stride after his disastrous start. He is in 5th place, ahead of number 13, which is Emanuele Pirro. 2 is David Hart, he's in 2nd place, and 37 is Philip Walker in 4th. Number 11 has in fact lost the lead. It is David Hart who's got the lead in number 2. The blue car, David Hart, leads now from Steve Soper, who is in 2nd place, and up into 3rd place now has come Philip Walker. Philip Walker is 3rd. Look at Adrian Newey coming down the inside of Philip Walker. Adrian Newey attacking as they go into the corner. David Hart leads. We've got 2 cars locked together. One of them is number 27, which is Christian Demoulin, but David Hart crosses the start-finish line in the lead with Steve Soper in 2nd place. Philip Walker is 3rd. Adrian Newey is still in 4th place despite all his efforts to get by. And although the caption is showing car number 3 in 3rd place, it's actually 37. The timekeeper's just sorted out all these GT40s. It is the pole position car, Philip Walker, number 37 in 3rd place. 27 is still off the road. That's Christian Demoulin. And there is another one off somewhere, I think, as well. We've had a spin coming out of the chicane. That was car number 8, which was Vincent Lloris. But look at Philip Walker being pushed very, very hard indeed. Sean Lynn, actually in number 13. Oh, look at Adrian Newey going right over the outside, far too wide. He goes over the grass. He's still on the grass. He's now back onto the tarmac, but that means that Emanuele Pirro in the sky blue car, number 13, has been able to profit by Adrian Newey's mistake. Adrian Newey kept the car in one piece despite travelling at high speed over the grass, and that means that with 3 laps already completed, it's David Hart still in the lead in the dark blue car, number 2. We see the start once more, and it was Adrian Newey who was terribly slow away. The rest of the field moving away much more rapidly. Watch the car in the middle just start to move and then almost come to a halt. And David Hart, just behind in the metallic blue car, with his headlights already on, had to go round him. And although the initial leader was Andy Wallace in the sky blue car from number 11, Steve Soper, off now goes 37, which is Philip Walker. Philip Walker engaging reverse gear in his efforts at Lavant Corner. We see, well, it's actually St Mary's that he started to go off. Yes, it is the exit of St Mary's, and miraculously he kept out of the barriers by inches. So David Hart still our leader, and that's a big moment for Steve Soper, who was in second place. Steve Soper loses a lot of places as well. All of these GT40s, or quite a lot of them, being driven as though they're 850 minis in a 10-lap sprint. But as the cars complete 4 laps, we've still got David Hart the leader. Emanuele Pirro has now come up to second place in car number 13. And because of the dramas behind him, Adrian Newey is now up into third place. 23, car number 23, that's James Cottingham, and he too has profited from the others having problems. Joachim Falk has had another moment, is travelling rather slowly now as the leaders now come up behind him, with David Hart leading Emanuele Pirro, leading Adrian Newey, with Steve Soper having recovered in 4th place. And behind him in 5th, it's car 23, which is James Cottingham. Yes, this was the moment that Joachim Falk had, not his first drama of the race, but the Spaniard lives to fight another day. And Adrian Newey, there he is in number 5. And working through the back markers now, David Hart looking very confident indeed. Emanuele Pirro in second place, he's in the sky blue car with the red stripe. Then it's Adrian Newey in the white car, they're just lapping Joachim Falk there. And number 11 in 4th place, that's Steve Soper, ahead now of James Cottingham. The place is changing lap by lap. David Hart starting to come under pressure from the immensely experienced Emanuele Pirro. Pirro in the sky blue car with the broad red stripe. The dark blue car is David Hart, the Dutchman. And Emanuele Pirro taking a wide line out of Lavant Corner. That may allow him to get a bit of a run on David Hart as they come down the Lavant Straight. Hart tucked in the slipstream in car number 13. Emanuele Pirro tucked into Hart's slipstream, I should say, but doesn't quite have the legs to do anything about it. They come queuing up through Woodcote Corner, out of Woodcote, down now into the chicane, with Emanuele Pirro taking a rather strangely wide entry into the chicane, but there's absolutely nothing, particularly in a big car like a GT40, you can do about that, because it's strictly one car width. But now Pirro is challenging, and Pirro makes a dive down the inside as they go through Magic Corner. A beautiful move by Emanuele Pirro, who takes the lead from David Hart. Pirro now the leader, Hart in second place, and Adrian Newey is in third place, wondering if he can do precisely the same. Pirro, Hart, Newey, then it's Steve Soper, then it's James Cottingham, and in 6th place, car number 6, which is Diogo Ferrari. But here we see it again, just a classic outbraking manoeuvre. Lining up, getting the inside line, leaving your braking as late as you dare, and just driving away. So Pirro from Hart, from Newey. Interesting that these cars all qualified in very wet conditions yesterday. now they've got cold, blustery conditions, but the track is completely dry. And they're in among back markers. Adrian Newey elbowing his way through. They were just lapping car number 7, which was Chris Wood. And as they complete now 7 laps, Emanuele Pirro has a lead of 1.1 seconds over David Hart. Adrian Newey in the car that he will share with Kenny Brack, coming through just 35 hundredths of a second behind. And still in 4th place, Steve Soper, with James Cottingham in 5th place as before. Next car to be lapped is David McCurlin in the yellow GT40. And remember that they have a compulsory driver change as we watch the battle for 5th with car number 6, Diogo Ferrari, getting quite sideways in that red car with James Cottingham just ahead of him. It's a 45-minute race. You can change drivers after 15 minutes, but no later than 30 minutes. And of course, these are big, wide cars. It's a narrow pit lane. Things are going to get pretty crowded when the driver changes begin. And a black flag for car number 7. That's Chris Wood. Car that was just being lapped. So David Hart in 2nd place. We've now got Steve Soper up to 3rd ahead of Adrian Newey now. Just lapping 194, which is Ricardo Silva in that unique Roadster GT40, the Targa Florio car from 1965. Now Adrian Newey cutting back at Steve Soper in number 11, Lavant corner. These cars absolutely tied together because the battle for 5th place has now joined up with the battle for 2nd place. We've got Hart, Soper, Newey, Cottingham and Ferrari all tied together. 5 GT40s. So we're coming up to 30 minutes, and I think we've already got a driver change coming into the pits. Number 24 is in the pits. That's Alain Schlesinger coming in, presumably to hand over to Yves Courage. And Steve Soper attacking David Hart. David Hart in the blue car has 2nd place as they come through the traffic, but James Cottingham looking for a chance. Steve Soper looking for a chance, I should say, number 11, just lapping there, 28, which is Florent Moulin. So, number 2 is in 2nd place. There he is, David Hart. Steve Soper and Adrian Newey following through. And then James Cottingham and Diogo Ferrari in 5th and 6th places. Ferrari in the red car, trying to get a run out of Lavant corner so that when they get on the straight he can be tucked into James Cottingham's slipstream and possibly get a tow by. But he's very close, he's about a length behind, but then they slow for Woodford corner, and wide goes Steve Soper. Not for the first time, Steve Soper runs wide. Oh, and nearly collects somebody else as he comes back onto the track. But that has thrown away Steve Soper's 3rd place. We see it again. David Hart attacked by Steve Soper. Hart went onto the grass briefly, and then Soper so nearly spun as Adrian Newey went through. And that means that Adrian Newey is promoted to 3rd place as they start their 11th lap. Still Emanuele Pirro our leader by now 7 seconds. David Hart second, Adrian Newey third, and James Cottingham now in 4th place. Number 3, the David Franklin GT40. So Adrian Newey wondering if he can get onto terms with David Hart. That's the battle for 2nd place. Hart, Newey, Cottingham and Ferrari. Going up to about 165, 170 miles an hour on this long back straight. Newey looking at the inside. Can he leave his braking later? Adrian Newey having a look down the inside. David Hart takes the line. So the driver change window is now formally open. We've gone past the first 15 minutes of the race. And Adrian Newey having another go at David Hart. Tries one side, then tries the other as they go down to Madgwick Corner. He's got to have the outside line, but that may mean that he can take the inside line as they come out and then have an attack going up to Fordwater. There's David Hart, there's Adrian Newey. And Ferrari on the grass briefly there. These cars are being driven on the absolute limit. James Cottingham in number 23, following in Adrian Newey's wheel tracks, and then it's the red car of Ferrari as they go queuing through St Mary's, the left-hander. And 11 after that earlier mistake is Steve Soper catching up with the queue. Lavant Corner now, and a driver change for 15 and for 194. 15 is Joachim Volk, handing over to Simon Hadfield. 194, the Mikado Silva team, swapping between Rui and Pedro. And once more Adrian Newey looking for a gap. There's a slower car ahead of them, which is the GT40 Roadster. It's just come out of the pits. And David Hart is able to go by, so is Adrian Newey. In fact, they all managed to go by because that's actually car 18, which was Jason Wright, keeping well clear of the rest of them. So still the order the same. They're on the 13th lap now, with Emanuele Pirro well clear, 12.2 seconds clear. And then Hart, Newey, Cottingham, Franklin, Soper and Ferrari, the rest. There's our leader about to lap Simon Hadfield, who's just come out of the pits, having had the driver change on that car, taken over from Joachim Volk. And this magnificent 2nd place battle still being waged. Car number 2 still has 2nd place. It's Hart from Newey, from Cottingham, from David Franklin and Steve Soper. In 7th place now we've got Justin Law in the Mark IV GT. The car with a quite different shape, belonging to Rob's Lamplow. And in comes car number 5, locking up its wheels. That's Adrian Newey, almost outbraking himself as he comes into the pits. Adrian Newey comes in to hand over to Kenny Brack. So Kenny Brack with that distinctive helmet ready to get in with the yellow diamonds on the top. Adrian Newey is out, Kenny Brack is in. Very, very rapid man indeed, Kenny Brack. They're getting him strapped in. They've got him in, they've slammed the door, and he's away. Kenny Brack rejoins, briefly held by the man with the yellow flag at the end of the pit lane until it's clear and safe for him to rejoin. And now we're going to get this fascinating period when all the driver changes take place, and we have to wait until they've all happened before we find out exactly what's going on. But that now means that the Emanuele Pirro car still leads. David Hart, number 2 car, there it is still in second place, but now James Cottingham is third, Steve Soper is fourth. And James Cottingham has gone ahead. Car number 23 goes ahead of car number 2. So finally David Hart has lost that second place. James Cottingham in the number 23 GT40 goes ahead into second place, a beautifully judged move. David Hart demoted to third. Steve Soper still there in the number 11 car in fourth place. And lots of activity below me in the pit lane now. Fastest lap to Emanuele Pirro, 1:23.373. Despite the fact that there is a lot of traffic for him, he's 16.7 seconds now ahead of our new second man, which is James Cottingham, in the number 23 car, which is shared with Andrew Smith. Very few people like to carry number 13 on their cars. In fact, here at Goodwood there is never a race 13. They always go straight from 12 to 14. But Emanuele Pirro loves the number 13 and usually tries to race with that number on his car. Well, David Hart fighting back at James Cottingham. 11 still has second place. David Hart is third. In fact, David Hart has lost another place, has he not? It's 23, then it's 11, then it's 2. So David Hart has now been passed also by Steve Soper, who takes the number 11 car up into third place. David Hart in number 2 has dropped to fourth. So he's lost 2 places in the last couple of laps. There he is, still apparently going well, but he has lost a little bit of momentum. 23, James Cottingham. 11, Steve Soper. And 2, David Hart. Emanuele Pirro on his 16th lap with 22 minutes or so still to go. So we're just past half distance. And Steve Soper starting to look very threatening to James Cottingham. The end of the 11th straight, thinking about was he going to be able to leave his braking later, but he couldn't. They queue up to come through the chicane. And another fastest lap by Emanuele Pirro gets down to 1:22.8 now. So Emanuele Pirro still driving his heart out at the front of the field, and he's got a 20.4 second lead now over this battle. That's the change of driver for Andy Wallace, who hands over to Alex Buncombe, who did so well to win in the C-Type in the wet conditions on Friday evening. So Alex Buncombe takes over from Andy Wallace, and still no sign of Emanuele Pirro wanting to stop this fine run at the front, but he may not stay in the cockpit for more than another 8 minutes or so, because the pit stop window is no earlier than 15 and no later than 30 minutes in this 45-minute race. Still this great battle between number 23 James Cottingham and number 11 Steve Soper. There they are, and once more Steve Soper closes up under braking. That's very close indeed, but James Cottingham has the matter well under control as they come down into the chicane. David Hart still following them through, and if they tell you you can't pit 2 GT40s side by side through the chicane, you can, and in comes was that Soper coming in? It was certainly David Hart coming in. Car number 7 is there as well. We've got a massive amount of activity in the pits with only 20 minutes left to run. there is car number 2 with John Hugenholtz clambering aboard, David Hart having got out. So David Hart replaced in car 2 by John Hugenholtz. Yes, number 11, the Steve Soper car, is indeed in the pits. And here is Kenny Brack in the car started by Adrian Newey, steaming away as off goes John Hugenholtz in number 2. And there goes the number 11 car with Steve Soper having handed over to David Cuff. David Cuff takes the number 11 car back into the race. 4.5 minutes left of the pit stop window. So once we get out of this driver change period, we will then see what has happened to the overall order. And there's Emanuele Pirro finally coming into the pits with 19 minutes left to run. Emanuele Pirro is very, very smartly out. Sean Lynn is very smartly in. And Sean Lynn being strapped in. The mechanic struggling with his seatbelt. That didn't look like the quickest of stops. Meanwhile, there is Kenny Brack really pressing on. This is a slow stop for Sean Lynn. So as Kenny Brack comes through, they finally get Sean Lynn into car number 13. He comes down to the end of the pit lane, but the Kenny Brack Newey car goes by, and that means, if I'm not very much mistaken, to use a famous commentator's line, that the new leader is Kenny Brack in car number 5, started by Adrian Newey. There is Sean Lynn in the car driven so brilliantly for the first 20, or the first 35 minutes of this race by Emanuele Pirro, who has set fastest lap of the race. So he is confirmed by the timekeepers as our new leader, Kenny Brack, in the number 5 Adrian Newey GTO, and the second man is Sean Lynn in the Emanuele Pirro car, and the gap between them we think is about 3.8 seconds. So a real battle between those two, and this race is certainly not over yet. We've got all of 17 minutes and a half for Sean Lynn to be able to close the gap between himself and Kenny Brack, two extremely rapid and capable drivers. Lots of traffic and lots of excitement, I'm sure, still to come. We reckon that in third place is car number 6, which is the red Ferrari car, Diogo Ferrari car, now being driven by Martin Stretton, which obviously had a very quick driver change. But Kenny Brack looking very, very quick indeed, going on his way. Yes, there's confirmation, 7 or 8 seconds, all but a tiny smidgen, between leader Brack and second man Sean Lynn, and then between Sean Lynn and Martin Stretton, a further 8.2 seconds. Kenny Brack out of St Mary's, up the brow, on the brakes. The first apex of Lavant Corner and across to the second apex, and then hard on the power down this long straight. The number 11 car, Steve Soper, started it, and David Cuff is at the wheel now. That's in 4th place, with the number 23 GT40s, started by James Cottingham, now being driven by Andrew Smith, in 5th place, and Alex Buncombe in the car started by Andy Wallace is in 6th place. Wonderful to see these superb GT40s, which were such an important force in the early and mid-60s in GT racing. And wonderful also that Adrian Newey, who spends his working day trying to make Red Bull Formula One cars go ever faster and faster, is quite happy to spend a weekend off here at Goodwood playing with one of his toys, to wit this great GT40 which he's sharing with Kenny Brack. Kenny Brack at the wheel now. And I'm sure Adrian Newey has got this car set up as well as it can possibly be set up. If you look at the front of the Adrian Newey car, you'll see that it seems to run very low. I'm sure its aerodynamics are absolutely as good as they can be made within the regulations. And of course, Goodwood is a circuit which was much used when the GT40 was being developed as a place where they got the cars sorted out and made to be as quick as possible. Many drivers in the 1960s used this circuit for testing. Bruce McLaren particularly used to test here a lot, and John Wyer, who ran JW Automotive, who developed the GT40s into real race-winning cars, used to test here a lot. Well, there is Kenny Brack through the chicane, over the start-finish line once more. He completes 21 laps. Now, what's happening to the gap between him and Sean Lynn? We see the lap times. Well, it's getting rapidly wider. Kenny Brack did his last lap in 1:24.0. Sean Lynn did his last lap in 1:26.1. So the gap between them's gone up a couple of seconds. Sean Lynn has lost 2 more seconds to Kenny Brack. The gap now 11.6 seconds between the leader, number 5, the second place car, number 13, and Martin Stretton in 3rd place in the number 6 car is also actually catching Sean Lynn. So we could have a battle for 2nd place on our hands in the remaining 13 minutes. Track may be getting a little bit more slippery now. I'm just looking at the crowds to see if any umbrellas are going up. I think we did have a little bit of drizzle here. Certainly it's heavily overcast, and the lap times are lengthening just a little bit. But what makes more of a difference to these lap times, of course, is the traffic, because we've still got 23, 24 of these starters running. It's quite crowded out there. And we're on board with car number 5, and we can see the line that Kenny Brack takes as he goes through Ford Water, that fast flick, and then on down to the right-hand section, which is the start of St Mary's, gets ready to swing across to the left-hand part of St Mary's. And then on towards Lavant Corner. And now we ride with car number 1. That's the Rob Huff, Richard Mines Ford. Meanwhile, Sean Lynn working away to try to maintain the pace that Emanuele Pirro set so brilliantly in the early section. 12.1 seconds he is now behind Kenny Brack, with Martin Stretton a further 6 seconds down, and then a long way before we get David Cuff in 4th place, and Alex Buncombe 5th, and the number 23 car, started by James Cottingham, now being driven by Andrew Smith, in 6th place. Kenny Brack looking so smooth and so quick. Car 14, the Henri Pescarolo Fabien Sarai car. Henri Pescarolo, the great French Le Mans driver and Matra Formula 1 driver, just being passed there by Martin Stretton, who's just lapped Pescarolo. Martin Stretton running in 3rd place. Now, Stretton is closing just a little bit on Sean Lynn. As I say, it does depend on the traffic, but I think we could get a bit of a battle for 2nd place. It doesn't look as though Sean Lynn is going to threaten Kenny Brack. As we look at number 28, which is in the pits, that is the car of Florent Moulin and Gérard Lopez. which rejoins, having come in for a little bit of inspection. That wouldn't have been a driver change because it was too late. There's 13 with Sean Lynn just lapping Rob Huff in the early prototype car, the very early Ford GT40. Ten minutes left to run of this race. Well, Sean Lynn actually closed the gap a little tiny bit on Adrian Newey on the last lap by about 2/5 of a second. So Sean Lynn is still trying pretty hard, but Kenny Brack picking his way past the number 9. That's the Mark IV Ford. You see it has a quite different shape. That is the car started by Justin Law, now being driven by Rob Slamplow. And car number 20, the yellow car of Frank Stippler, gets the lights flashed by that's Frank Stippler in the yellow GT40, getting a flash of the lights from Kenny Brack. Keeps obediently out of the way as Kenny Brack comes over, looks across at his pit signals, which very pleasingly for him, of course, say P1, and he is in P1. He's now completed 25 laps, and that pit stop for number 28 obviously didn't do any good because Gerard Lopez has brought the car to a halt. He's parked the car out on the circuit. There's Kenny Brack. And there, number 6 is Martin Stretton, and the gap, well, it's 9.1 seconds between Stretton in 3rd place and Sean Lynn in 2nd place. So he's got about 8 minutes left. That's a pretty steep mountain to climb for Martin Stretton, but I'm sure he's going to do his best to get closer to Sean Lynn. Rob Huff following the Newey Brack car there. Having been lapped, it shows that he's able to maintain the pace of the leading car. It would seem that Kenny Brack is driving conservatively now. His lap times have come down to about 1:24.1, so he's maintaining the gap back to Sean Lynn, is Kenny Brack, but he's not allowing Sean Lynn to get any closer, but he's certainly not on the limit now. He's driving very conservatively. There is Sean Lynn in number 13, and Martin Stretton in the red GT40, 10 seconds behind now, so he closes a little bit more, but it's still not going to be enough. And we ride on board car 13. This is our 2nd place man, Sean Lynn at the wheel, going into the left-hand section of St Mary's, out of St Mary's, hard on the brakes now and moving across to the right of the road to take the apex. Well, in fact, he misses the apex of Lavant Corner and almost got passed once more by Rob Huff in number 1, who's a lap adrift of him, but is certainly riding with him. There's number 5, our leader once more, on his 27th lap through the chicane yet again. And Kenny Brack completes his 27th lap. 1 minute 24.2, so still just reeling off these laps fairly conservatively, driving like a good long-distance sports car driver does, driving to finish, because if you want to win, first you have to finish. 12.5 seconds back, Sean Lynn, and a further 9.8 seconds back, it's Martin Stretton in the red car number 6. Kenny Bragg on the long straight, the 11th straight, which isn't quite straight, but it's certainly flat with a kink in the middle. Then on go the brakes. 200-yard marker, 150, 100-yard marker, and through this long Woodcote corner, which, like most of the corners at Goodwood, has a double apex, taking a lovely tight line on the chicane. And there's the owner of that car, Adrian Newey, talking to Jackie Stewart. Adrian Newey watching Kenny Bragg lead the race in his car. Working his way neatly and cautiously through the traffic. The next car he's got to lap is the Chris Childs yellow GT40. Into St Mary's they go. And once again, Kenny Bragg flashes his headlights. Chris Childs knows he's there, but of course the onus is on the car behind to lap. And Kenny Bragg waits until he's out of Lavant Corner before he goes by. Woodcote Corner once more, and we've got in the pits number 23. That's the Cottingham Smith car. That's a shame. So obviously a problem for the car that was driven so well in the early stages by James Smith, by James Cottingham. Andrew Smith has brought the car into the pits, and it looks as though that isn't going to go any further. Kenny Bragg. And there our second man, Sean Lynn. And Sean Lynn still managing to keep the gap back to third man Martin Stretton pretty constant. He's being followed by Rob Huff, who's a lap adrift in the car that was started by Richard Mines. And they're just lapping the number 8 GT40, driven now by Xavier Tancogne. Sean Lynn out of Ford Water, through the first part of St Mary's, out of Lavant, on down the Lavant Straight. And here in Woodcote Corner and then the chicane, with less than 2 minutes left to run, is our leader Kenny Bragg in Adrian Newey's GT40, and it looks as though he's just going to have to do another 2 laps. This, I would guess, is the penultimate lap of this 45-minute race. And even though in the early stages Adrian Newey made that slow start, he then came consistently back. Off in a big way at St Mary's goes number 23, which did rejoin the race. That's Andrew Smith, trying to make up for the time he lost in the pits. Gets it back onto the circuit without any further damage, and motors on his way. Kenny Bragg on the Lavant Straight. Coming up now to lap car number 2, which was running in second place for such a long time, started by David Hart, now with John Hugenholtz at the wheel, and it's now down in 6th place. As we watch Sean Lynn coming into Woodcote Corner, and then the chicane. And meanwhile, Adrian Newey, Kenny Bragg, the car number 5. Kenny Bragg takes it over the start-finish line to begin his final lap. This is the last lap for Kenny Bragg, and he's done absolutely everything that the car's owner, Adrian Newey, could possibly have wanted. Number 6, meanwhile, Martin Stretton, is in 3rd place. We've still got number 13, Sean Lynn, in 2nd. With in 4th place now the number 16 car, that's the Andy Wallace, Alex Buncombe car. Steve Soper in 5th place. It's not Steve Soper now, of course, because it's David Cuff at the wheel of that car. And then the car we were just talking about, the Dutchman, David Hart and John Hugenholtz. In that car, number 2, which has just been lapped, they are in 6th place. A beautifully smooth professional job done by Kenny Brack, who comes into Woodcote Corner for the last time, through the chicane for the last time. The checkered flag is waiting. This is going to be the victor of the Whitsun Trophy for 2013. Kenny Brack in Adrian Newey's GT40, started by Adrian Newey, wins that race. Here comes number 13. This is Sean Lynn in the car shared with Emanuele Pirro. He is in 2nd place, and we wait for the Diogo Ferrao car. There it is, the red one, number 6, being driven now by Martin Stretton. He finishes in 3rd place. In 4th place will be car number 16, which is the Andy Wallace Alex Buncombe GT40.
Arena now with Henry Hope Frost.
Yes, indeed. Slightly further up the start-finish straight, Marcus, this time for an incredible Whitsun Trophy. 3rd place to Diogo Ferrao and Martin Stretton. Diogo, you started, and it was a very accomplished drive.
Well, it was very busy at the front. We were all fighting for the 2nd place. I was thinking to keep up with them and deliver to Martin as soon as possible, so we can take advantage of the all fighting. Silly
question, but you enjoyed it, didn't you?
It was lovely. It was the best race of my life.
Martin, he drove well.
Yeah, it's just a fantastic race to be in, and I'm very grateful to Diogo and his father for asking me to drive the car. That was as quick as I could go today, but it's a great car and it was a huge amount of fun. Just could see Sean, but I couldn't quite get there.
Was it slippery out there?
Yes, and it was getting more slippy, and it could have been a bit of lottery at the end because it's coming down now, but no, it was great.
Good stuff, well done, guys. Round of applause, ladies and gents. Martin Stretton and Diogo Ferrao, 3rd place in the Whitsun Trophy. Where are our runners-up? Let me go over here. 2nd place then, Emanuele Pirro, who had an enormous lead before handing over to Sean. Emanuele, you were mega.
Do you allow me to say hi to the wonderful crowd every year? It's such a blessing coming here. So we're going to get wet, but who cares? Enjoy the weekend.
Ever the pro. How was the car?
I was so happy. These cars are even more beautiful to drive than to look at. So it was really good. And, you know, they like to have a wide road because you have a lot of power and they like to slide. So when you are in the lead and you have all the road for yourself, it's priceless. So I really enjoyed it. We haven't made the pit stop driver change as quick as we used to do in Le Mans, and this was costing us some seconds, but 2nd place is fantastic, and I'm really pleased. And Sean Lynn, my car owner, did really a fantastic job. He had Martin Stretton, who is somebody you don't like to have behind you, putting pressure, but he held on and we're 2nd. Congratulations to Kenny and Adrian. They deserve the win. Thank you very much. See you later. Thank you.
Sean, the pit stop made the difference in the end, do you think?
I'm afraid it did. Unfortunately, my waist is slightly bigger than Emanuele's, and it took us a bit of time to adjust it. But what an amazing drive he had at the start, and all I had to do was just try and hang on to it at the end.
At least you're younger than him.
Oh, yeah, well, no, I think actually about the same age, aren't we?
51 and a half.
I'm 50, so I am the younger.
But girls still like me, as you can see.
Well done, guys. Sean Lynn and Emanuele Pirro, round of applause. Our runners-up in the number 13 GT40. Let me go over into this scrum and have a word with our winners. Both of these guys have won the TT, not together, of course. Adrian winning in the Jaguar E-Type with Martin Brundle. Kenny Brack winning in the Daytona Cobra Shelby with Tom Christensen 2 years before. Let me start. Adrian, congratulations, another big win at Goodwood.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. I mean, Kenny drove fantastically. It's really been a privilege sharing the car with him. We've done a little bit of testing, and that's been really enjoyable. Just trying to develop the car a little bit on the setup. Kenny's made a big contribution, and big thank you to all at Lanzantes in particular. They've done a great job of preparing the car. It's ran faultlessly all weekend.
So you've had a TT win and now a Whitsun Trophy win. What you need now is a St Mary's Trophy win.
At the moment, I'm just happy. I'll look forward to enjoying the party now. Thank you.
Kenny, when you swept past into the lead when Emanuele was in the pits, that was pretty much job done.
You know, I didn't know what to do in the first few laps because I didn't know where we were. I just went balls out and took all the risks I had to do, and then I got the P1 sign and like the seconds, and then I thought, well, now we need to conserve a little bit. But yeah, you know, here comes the rain, you know, and we didn't know before the race what we were going to do. So I said to the man upstairs, I don't care what you do, just do it right.
Yeah. We all wanted it to rain really hard because we know what you're like.
Yeah, I didn't, to be honest, because yesterday was a bit of a handful in these conditions with this car. But it was good fun. It's been a fantastic experience for me to work with Adrian, you know, and the whole Lansante team. They've done such a great job. It's easy then, you know. It's been good. Very.
I hope you asked him not to put too much downforce in the car.
That's this God's department, that is, you know, and you know, thank you so much to all the fans and Goodwood and everything. It's the greatest event, this.
Well done, a pleasure for us to watch. Kenny Brack, Adrian Newey, ladies and gentlemen, winners of